derivative deal.
There she is. There she is.
Alright, that's enough of that shit. Let's get this show on the road.
Greetings and felicitations.
Hello and welcome to Indefinite Lunch and Infinite Combinations, number 131. I'm so glad you're here today. I haven't streamed in a while. I guess exactly 1 week since. Actually, just for posterity, I need to say that immediately after my last live stream last Tuesday, I lost my voice, and so I hadn't been able to stream on Friday, but it was so bad that if I were talking on the microphone, you would not have been able to hear me. So if anyone thinks my voice is is still a little off, it's a little gravelly, but at least it gets through the microphone. And so we're going to wrap up season 4 of For All Mankind, and of course we already know that season 5 is going to be released next year. So it's really great to be catching up this series. And I'm so glad you're here with me today to finish off season 4 so that I can be caught up with all of you. One of my favorite things about finishing this series, this season, is that after this I can look at all the production notes. I can look at everything now. I can look at every interview, everything, and not have to worry about any spoilers, because from here on out I won't have to worry about spoilers because I'm caught up with everybody else. I know what everybody else knows, and that's pretty much my favorite thing about this season finale today. This is the last season that's been released, and so then we get season 5 next year. So I want to thank everybody who's here. Stortopupus Cuber says, "Hello, humans and other critters." Greek letter says, "I hope Jill has recovered." I'm still here. Yeah. So eventually, I'm sure my voice will fully return, but it's more or less here. Hello to DJ Knight. I've got my green tea with honey. Got some water, and in dire emergencies, I got some, some cough drops. And on top of that, I've got a Phil. So hello, Phil.
Hey, Jill.
How are you doing? You ready to finish up season 4 of For All Mankind?
Absolutely. Been looking forward to this.
All right, me too. Well, now I can actually look at all the information about all the shows, all the production notes, all of the interviews. I'm excited to go do that after this.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how what you thought of all that.
Well, so far so good anyway. And my voice is still recovering, but if I need you to take over, I will let you know.
All right, will do. But it
I'm
sounds
glad
like
you're here for that.
Of course, it sounds like you've found your voice, or at least most of it.
Yeah, most of it. Some of it's laying in pieces somewhere. Like when you lose pieces to a 1,000-piece puzzle, I might be missing like 50 pieces. Oh my goodness! And also to explore the penultimate episode and the season finale for season 4 of For All Mankind, we have Lance from the Outcast Creative. I'm maybe a little too excited. I lost some of my voice.
Hi, I really wanted to pop in because I know it's your last one to cover the show. I've got 2 live streams today. I've got an interview coming up in just over an hour.
Okay.
An industry interview I'm doing, and then I've got my regular show at 10 o'clock. But I thought I'd pop on now at the beginning because I wouldn't be able to come on later. Maybe just to give you my thoughts of this season as a whole. Would that be helpful, or is that all out of sync, and does that everything out of whack for you?
You know what? It is out of sync, but I don't care. I think you're amazing, and I want to hear what you have to say.
And
But I
see
do
the
need
other.
before I get to that, I just want to finish saying hello to my chat because
Yeah,
we have
sure.
Deej
Let me.
Odyssey. Hello, good morning to Deej Odyssey. DJ Play Nice says, "Wee." And yeah, I was sounding really good at the start of the show, but my voice cuts in and out. I need to remember to take it easy. DJ Play Nice says, if this is your first time watching, thanks and welcome. I hope you hit that like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Thank you, DJ Play Nice. That's great advice. People wish I would lose my voice. Where is your voice hiding? Yeah, so it's improving, but it's still coming back slowly. Hey, keep it down. I'm trying to run a betting pool on how many times you can get the supervisor to say lube. Okay, girl. Good luck with that. And okay, so now and then I also want to say hello to Theta Zord. And I appreciate you popping on, as you said, Lance, to tell us what you think about season 4 For All Mankind. The ending to the season is, as emotional as any other, but it's kind of all over the place, and some things are resolved, some things aren't.
Well, I did feel. I think the season's really solid. And a lot of the things, kind of there's a lot of setup at the end of season 3, and I kind of thought there's going to be, there's going to be a revolution. There's going to be a revolution between the people who are basically being reduced to lower classes and the people who have got all the nice accommodation upstairs. And the scene that summed all that up for me was when the guy came in to repair the it's in one episode where the guy comes in to repair the air conditioning unit or something, and the guy doesn't even look it up, doesn't even acknowledge him, which just in any context is so disrespectful. And it's that immediate social barrier of somehow, because I've got a better job than you, you're beneath me. And
It's even worse than that. They're basically treated like indentured servants.
Yeah, basically, and I mean figuratively and literally, they are beneath these people. Sorry, I'll just put my phone on silent.
And Ed just swoops in and takes care of all of that pretty quickly.
And you could see that so easily happening.
And Dev does. Dev and Ed. I guess they work together.
Yeah. So Toby Kebbell, who is our sort of leading lower class protagonist, if you like, in season 4. I've met him actually.
Miles.
It's Miles.
Yeah, and he did a film for a friend of mine, a director called Shane Meadows. Did a very sort of small independent movie about a brother coming back to revenge the death of his brother, and the older brother's played by Paddy Considine. And as soon as I saw Toby in that, I thought, man, this kid is going to go. He's going to go really far, And straight after that, he was getting casting after casting, and then he kind of disappeared for a while. So when he got cast in this, I was really pleased to see him in the show. But yeah, I was kind of. It's funny. It's like the human side of you is hoping that these people will see sense, and that Chris Marshall's character, who's just an incredible actress, my God, she's an amazing actress. You'd think that they would see sense and not make the mistakes of humanity's past, right? And because that's really what we need to be avoiding if and when, well, not if, but when we go to Mars, we need to be avoiding the mistakes of humanity's past. And there's a really good science fiction novel trilogy, I'm sure you both have heard of it, called the Mars trilogy. It's Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars. And James Cameron has tried to film that as a series many times. and the copyright to that trilogy novel series has gone round Hollywood, God knows how many times. And this show is really this season in particular contains loads of the themes from those books. So, and then there's the dramatist in me is watching the show going, oh my God, I can't wait for all the action and the big rebellion to break out. And there's going to be all these cool scenes and, you know, and they're going to rise up and take over the
Then we just
base.
get sugar.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny that the show actually gives you that moral dichotomy even as a viewer, because you want the society to be a good reflection of mankind, and at the moment it's not. And it's also the ambivalence and the naivety and the ego of the people in command. They fail to get a grasp on the massive divide that occurs so quickly. They don't take the issues that are raised by, as you say, the indentured servants seriously, and there were so many opportunities to stop this from building and building and building, and they failed. But I do think the series has a flaw. I think that they thought it was going to be the last season at some point. It feels like it suffers from Babylon 5 issues in that regard. It feels, and I don't know, I have tried to research this and use my grapevine to see what I could find out, but I haven't got a definitive answer from a source that I trust. But there's all kinds of rumors that when the show started, they were told it was going to be the last season. Then halfway into production, they got told they were getting another season. So how true that is, I don't know. But it does feel
so you
like,
think they kind of wrote it as if this was the last?
I think a lot was packed in case it was the last. And that beautiful ending shot where we advance in time and we see the colonies and the things and all that, you know, if that had been the end of the show forever, that still would have worked. So pretty sure that was in play from day one. Sorry, Philip, jump in.
No, I was just going to say that, yeah, if this would have been like it, I would have felt like it told a story, and it would be a decent ending. Even though I do want more, you know, I feel like it would have been fine if it would just ended after this. But I'm glad that we have a season 5 coming. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, because at least they did give Danny a happy ending, it looks like.
Yeah, and I can watch these characters all day. I'm very invested in these characters. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in season 5. The whole Korean storyline was kind of interesting, especially in light of sort of what's going on Earth at the moment. And I like the North Korean characters as well. They actually took some time to flesh them out. They're not just, you know, cardboard North Korean communists that live in the section next door. They actually are human, and they have feelings, and they have families, and you know, they feel more connected to, or some of them at least feel more connected to their fellow astronauts than necessarily to their country. And I think that's a true reflection of what would happen in this kind of situation. So I was thinking that the season could have ended with Mars declaring independence, and it felt like it might be going that way at one point. But I mean, we'll see what happens in season 5. It might be that season 5 ends with that, or it might be that season 5 has a positive message. What I'm hoping is that season 5 will end with definitive alien contact. That's what I'd like to see. And you know, and then it's maybe the title comes up.
Oh, alien contact. Jeez.
Mankind is no longer alone, and boom, that's the end of season 5. We don't find out anything else. We just know we're no longer alone, and people have made contact. And I think that would be a great ending to the season.
Well, it'd be fantastic to actually meet aliens we could communicate with. I was just hoping for Kelly to find something in the crater. and they kind of just dropped her storyline. And like, we're gonna forget all about that. It's just gonna be her
Or we're
reconciling.
just gonna put a pin in that for now.
Yeah, I think that storyline probably would have concluded if this had been the last season. And I think what happened was at some point during the production, it was like, guys, we've got a season 5. So what storylines are we going to put on pause? What are we going to, what are we going to wrap up? What are we going to flesh out? What are we going to cut back? And I'm guessing that was one of them, because up until now, there's been very little in the show that's kind of been started and then just suddenly stopped. Most things have had an arc or a conclusion, or come to some sort of, resolution or outcome, rather than just fizzle out. The show's been pretty strong with resolving all its storylines. So I'd be surprised if that
Most of them, anyway.
Yeah, most.
There are a lot of times where I'm thinking, is this going to come back later? And it never does. So there are a few things I miss out on. The Odyssey says the Vulcans show up at the end of season 5.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we need a storyline with aliens. We don't, need an alien ending up on the base and having half a season with them hanging out and getting to know their customs and that kind of thing. Because I think that would, in a way, that would kind of derail the reality of the show. I think it would be enough to almost end with kind of like a Close Encounters of the Third Kind type ending, where they've made contact. We don't know what happens after that, and that's kind of where it ends. That's the only. I don't want to see an alien invasion or or aliens being given a tour of the base or that sort of thing. That's not what I want to see in this, this show.
Especially not humanoid aliens, because that would be unrealistic. We know that other life would definitely be vastly different from us. Yes, Phil? Well,
yeah.
I mean, potentially, it's still open to speculation that intelligent life is even out there in the cosmos. I don't doubt that it's abundantly clear that there's, microbial or simple life out there, but maybe we just don't know. But I think Lance and I jokingly speculated that, they could even have the moon get blasted out of Earth orbit, and then we end up in Space 1999 world. But
yeah, that was we did mention that on a previous episode. I mean, I'm of the opinion, and I've been following it very closely, that we do have craft. Governments do have craft. I watched all the testimony of the stuff before the the committee in Congress and all of that. And there's just too much tangible proof coming out now. So I'm pretty sure they've been here already. I'm pretty sure we've got craft. They may tie some of season 5 into some of the things that are coming out now. That could be interesting. That would be good. That could be a storyline actually back on Earth. Hey, by the way, it suddenly comes out, yeah, we had one. We've got one. Here it is, locked away in this hangar. We didn't know what to do with it.
I'm still not so sure. Nobody's had coffee with an alien yet.
Well, no, but
I mean,
I've seen enough proof to believe that those witnesses are credible.
So. I mean, I'm definitely of the UFO persuasion, but I think even my interest in it kind of stops at the what they call in the conspiracy world the ETH, extraterrestrial hypothesis. I think there's something else going on that a lot of people kind of scoff at, because it's not like within the mainstream conception of whatever this could be, whatever this phenomenon could be. And I try to approach it from like a scientific or even skeptical lens. Like, I think the phenomenon may be real. I just don't think whatever it is necessarily extraterrestrial. And, I've been seeing these things for decades, stories and everything come out. And in terms of that, I mean, I would hope so, but I'm not convinced that it's extraterrestrials.
Well, I guess we'll see in time. Hopefully that'll all come out in my lifetime. That's the one thing I'd really would like to see.
Yeah, I hope we get an answer. That's for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I do think this is one of the best science fiction television shows ever made. Overall, up to these 4 seasons, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Really like it. It could have gone really wrong. They could have, when it first debuted, of course, there was a lot of internal politics in film and television about pushing certain narratives and labels, and I think that probably is what got this show green lit. Fortunately, they then had the sense to kind of steer that into more of a believable reality, and I liked it. I really did like it. Yeah, so anyone that's, I've said it before on this channel when we've talked about it before, anyone who's not watching the show because you think you're going to get served some kind of soup of woke nonsense, that's absolutely not what you're going to get. You might need to stick out the first few episodes, but it is worth it. Absolutely worth investing your time.
And that is what I was kind of worried about. And I decided that if it did appear, I was going to point it out, but it's really not present. So that is
there's a little bit of it in season 1, but not.
Yeah,
there's a little bit, but
you can see that struggle where somebody's trying to insert something, but they fail.
And pretty soon it's kind of reined into a reality within the show that's very believable. And I liked it.
I mean, I've said for the longest time that the first female president won't be a Democrat, and the show portrays its first female president as a Republican. So I think the show is more closer to real life than we give it credit for.
Yeah.
Right.
So roll on season 5. Looking forward to it. Do we know when we're getting season 5?
Oh, I'm not sure. Release date for
I think the rumor's like the spring, because I think they air new seasons like once every 14 to 16 months. But we did have that whatchamacallit happened, because it was a combination of things, because not only is it the the writer's strike and the actor's strike, but it was also like sort of a slowdown in the industry already. So
the COVID stuff.
I don't know how exactly that's going to affect everything, but I would say we'll probably get a new season no later than the summer. But
right,
I mean, that's a speculation I've heard on Reddit and on
because
some of the other things I'm associated with.
Shooting began July 24, so where are we now? We're November. So principal photography on season 5 definitely would have wrapped already. They'll be well into post-production by now.
Yeah.
So sometime latest summer next year, maybe earlier.
Fingers crossed.
5 anything.
I can't find an official date of release for season 5.
No, but you can. But there is a date of when principal photography began, so you can estimate it pretty well from that.
Very good. Well, next summer sounds great. And then I'll pause my Twilight Zone reviews to review For All Mankind when it comes around.
I might save doing my special on the show until we've had season 5, and then I'll just do like a special.
Oh, right, because you wanted to do that this December, but it didn't come around.
I mean, I may still do that, but I think I'm not going to do the show to the detail that you've done it, because I'm doing The Shield, and that's going to take me at least probably until the end of next year. We've just finished season 1, and I'm not starting season 2 until next year. So I think with this, I'll probably just do a special on it, talk about all the actors and the production. And
there's definitely a ton of stuff to talk about with this that you can do.
I want to get somebody on the show. I want to get someone on from the show for that stream. So I'll see what I can do about that. But it'd be great if you guys would guests on it as well. Because
you were saying something about Chris Marshall. That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to interview her full stop, because I think she's a fantastic actress. But the cast on this, though, are just, all of them are just so good. I mean, Joel Kinnaman is he kind of had some pretty samey roles for a while, but then the RoboCop reboot and things like that as well. But when this was really a part that he could really show his stuff,
Yeah, I think the writers kind of make him an asshole for no reason every once in a while, but eventually it pulls together, and at least they didn't do that in these last 2 episodes, so I was so happy about that. Today we are talking about season 4, episodes 9 and 10, called Brazil and Perestroika,
Mhm.
which is a Russian word meaning reconstruction.
Mhm.
And
Jill, I better
Brazil,
duck out before you
yes.
get started on that because I've got my
Mhm.
show coming out.
Yep.
Okay.
But just wanted to
Okay.
come in and make a contribution.
Of course.
to
And I do
your
appreciate
It's
anything
always
you
welcome.
wanted to share. Was there anything else you wanted to share about For All Mankind or what you're doing today or this week?
I don't want to take up any more of your time, really. I've got an interview coming up. I suspect the crossover with your audience will be pretty limited. That's in 90 minutes from now at 8 p.m. UK time, probably just about around the time you're wrapping up, I suspect. But that's with Adele Andea, who's a trance DJ in the UK music scene, huge over here. But not really connected to sci-fi, although her music would be very good for a sci-fi movie. So, and I've got my new book coming out in a week, just over a week. But I'll come on and talk about that another time because I talk about that now.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations on finishing your book.
Thank you so much.
A lot of people, don't ever
Looking
finish
forward
their
to it.
books. So it's good work.
Yeah,
Yeah, you had a deadline and you met it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, just about. So, God, I was up all hours for weeks. But yeah, it's it's all about movies, so I think people are going to like it. So it'll be all over my social media when it's available off Amazon. But I think it will be available to order in about a week and a half, maybe. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
Guys. Enjoy talking about the fantastic show, and love you both loads. And I'll speak to you soon.
All right, we'll see you. Take it easy, Lance.
See you soon, Lance. Have a great interview.
Thank you.
Thanks to Lance from the Outcast Creative for stepping in and talking to us about some of the things that he thinks about For All Mankind, which I thought were interesting and really helped get that was a great introduction to talking about these episodes. These episodes are actually really simple, so these reviews might not take very long. So we're starting with season 4, episode 9, Brazil. It's called Brazil. And it first aired on January 5th, 2024. It had 3 writers, David Weddle, Bradley Thompson, who typically team up together to write. But in addition, Kate Burns is also given a writing credit. It's directed by Sergio Amica Gazan.
I think so.
And so we start at Happy Valley, and here we are at Happy Valley. Let me bring up the slides so you can see Mars, because we got to get to Mars. I'm interviewing a lot of DJs at the moment. It says Lance from the Outcast Creative.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, there are a few DJs here. I bet we might want to talk. I'm not sure. You might ask them.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Hello to Low Spec Linux Gaming. The super volcanoes blows up. Oh well, that would be the disaster that happens on Earth. Oh no, that would not be good for anyone. Oh, I was just thinking of it happening in For All Mankind. I wasn't even thinking of Yellowstone. I'm not watching Yellowstone, but that makes sense, I guess.
That would be the best ending for that show. I mean, I've only seen the first episode, but a lot of people swear by it, and that kind of annoys me. But I don't know. One day I'll hop into it because I do genuinely like the screenwriter behind it. But one day.
Okay, I understand. Although that supermassive volcano is always threatening to blow up. So we'll see what happens with that. But we're at Ghost Ops. Of course, they're in the walls and under the pipes and everything to stay on the 4th floor, which was blocked off, and it's supposed to be off limits. Nobody should be going down there, and so that's why they use it for their secret communication station, because the whole plan is they've got a plan to capture an asteroid, just quote unquote steal an asteroid. I don't know how you steal something that is in space, but I guess because Earth claimed it. So they're so Ed and Dev and the crew of the Ghost Ops are stealing it for Mars, so that Mars will stay relevant and the space program can continue.
Mm-hmm. And we'll address that point later on.
Yeah, so they still can't get through to the discriminator box because Samantha has not swapped it out yet. And she's had a month to do it, but she hasn't done it yet. She needs to do it now. She's only got another 48 hours to swap out the boxes. And in the meantime, we've got our ticking clock. Goldilocks is going to reach Mars, and that'll be the moment of truth, whether or not Goldilocks will head to Earth or head to Mars, based on whether or not the secret special Ghost Op team can change its orbit to Mars, or if NASA will win and NASA and Roscosmos both teaming up together to get the rock to Earth. And on the Ranger, they're doing simulation procedures and everything, and working on all that to get the final burn to get the asteroid where they want it. And so this is where Samantha put something into the distributor box to fry it out. But it couldn't be water, because that would, like, if it was just water, then you could just sneeze and destroy it. So it must be something else, but I can't really see what's in that bottle that fries the circuits. Deej Odyssey says, I'm a retired DJ. My only claim to fame was broadcasting out of the Motown Museum.
Mhm.
Oh, neat. That's fun. So, of course, Sam says, I'll switch out the box, no problem. And of course, she switches it out with the box that the Ghost Ops team can use to communicate, so that they can tell, so that they can get that so they can tell the asteroid to keep burning and get into orbit with Mars. And that's their goal. And so Sam finally did her job right at the last minute. Good work. It took her a little while to get around to it, but she made it. And Kelly's talking about her search for life, the thing that I keep wanting to happen that doesn't happen. But she's working on it, and she's trying to discuss the details with Dev, but he's kind of distracted playing with Alex instead. And he's really ready to just he has to attend this meeting listening to Kelly, but he just cannot wait to just get away and go work on getting that asteroid around Mars. And Kelly's starting to become suspicious that Ed and Dev are now best friends,
Mhm.
because they hated each other at first. Mm, and then, of course, Dev said something about how she has a chance to make things right with her dad that he didn't have. He didn't have that chance, so she has that chance, and that actually this particular scene does have a conclusion where she does just that later on. And so Miles and Ed, they're talking to Lee, and they want the camera feed that the North Koreans use to spy on the base. And Lee thinks it's too dangerous, but Ed says what we're doing is going to change everything, and it's possible that this is going to help get your wife here, and that's all he needed to hear. Hey, you're gonna help me see my wife? Okay, fine. Let's get that going. You can tap into our feed, audio feed, and so with that audio feed, they find out that Samantha switched out the box, and they're able to ping to a ranger. Of course, pinging is a thing where you check the network connections and see if you can connect to the other network, and they're capable of doing that. And that's a success for them. I thought this was a game for a minute, says Hungary. Hungary? Hungary? Hungary.
I wish. Actually, there is a game that kind of explores. It's a series of games, but it's like it explores the colonization and settlement of the solar system. I think the first one was called "Deliver Us the Moon," and then "Deliver Us Mars," and then I think the new one coming out is called "Deliver Us Home." And that one's a kind of one that I contributed to the Kickstarter project for. But yeah, it's kind of like this in a way, but not completely. It's more of like an alternate like future, because we're not obviously going to go down the exact route that this video game series is going through, but it's kind of interesting to see the evolution as you go through it.
Oh, that sounds good. Sounds like a good game. I haven't played that. Or I guess maybe nobody's played it because it's a Kickstarter. Has it been released?
The first two have. The newest one is still being created.
Okay. Well, we're at a meeting at Molly Cobb's Space Center, and Aleda's talking about how the only way to make things go faster is to invest more money, but of course nobody wants to do that. That's already $1 trillion is being spent, and Hobson says no, pretty much. And so they want things done faster, but they don't want it to cost more money. Come on. So she gives okay, so Margot wants to talk to Sergey because she thinks that he can figure out a way to make things go faster in terms of mining operations or the trajectories, or she needs to talk to Sergey about the trajectories, and that'll get the rock to Earth faster with his help. But Aleda says, okay, but we have to meet face to face. And she says it's risky, but of course, everything's been risky. So they meet at Aleda's house. And of course, we all know that they're all going to be tracked and watched and followed. And so that's the start of that storyline.
Mm-hmm. And risk is part of the game if you want to sit in that chair.
Yeah, risk is our business. And some green tea. I got a drink. If these politicians got out of our way, yeah, that would be nice. This season has been politician heavy.
It's definitely not a flattering view. I mean, most of the time, I think this show is pretty critical of political games as well as career bureaucrats.
Right, even the president, everything he wants everything to be perfect so that he can be reelected.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so the North Korean part of Happy Valley has Commander Cho. He's upset because his video feed is staticky. It's not usually staticky, and they immediately find this this little antennae equipment, communications equipment, to the that's just hooked up in the back of the monitor. with the NASA marking still on it. You think if you're trying to be sneaky, take the sticker off, or you try to hide the device in such a way that it's still connected, but you kind of can't see it. Maybe put it under the table. But no, they just stick it right on the back of the monitor. And so, of course, it's discovered immediately. And this basically tumbleweeds, snowballs into the whole thing, the whole operation being discovered. This starts Danny's investigation, and of course, she figures it out rather quickly with this evidence. All she has to do is track the serial number because nobody took the sticker off. And so, of course, the North Koreans are demanding justice immediately with no but she can't speak Korean, so she's just, and the translations are not exactly correct. But it's fine. She's gonna look up the serial number. That's all she needs. But why deny that it is built in America? It's a mark of pride. Oh, no, it's just because the Ghost Ops team are trying to piggyback off of the North Korean camera equipment. So if you're gonna do that, why would you leave the markings of who you are and the trail of all the things that you stole? Like leaving that serial sticker on it just leaves a trace, and that's the reason why you want to take the sticker off, not because you don't have pride for America.
Yeah,
because you have pride for Mars.
I mean, we're heading there for. I mean, kind of like piggybacking off what Lance was saying. I mean, I kind of think that the eventual thrust of the show is to eventually get to a point where Mars becomes independent, but I think we're just setting up the steps to get there. And so yeah, we're not quite at the point where like Mars can be that independent state, but we're setting the little, we're setting the breadcrumbs out to get there. And so I don't know. I don't think this is going to be like the turning point for everything. And it's kind of fascinating who's going to be at the leadership of that. Because I mean, you have the North Koreans, obviously the Americans, and the Russians kind of, contributing most to this, I think.
Yes. Yeah, and so a new society is being built, definitely. But some people are who want to stay on Mars. Some people can't wait to get back to Earth, and one of those people who is Earthbound is Danny, and she's crafting her message so her stepson can play it during his wedding. And she tried this before and she failed. She couldn't do it, but now she does she says a great speech about wanting to become a great grandmother and wanting to spend time with her family. And so that it's nice. It's really, really sweet. And okay, but the biggest problem I have with it is because she says, you better get used to it because I'm going to make sure my grandbaby is a full Trekkie. That's right. We're going to watch all 3 theories.
Yep. You want to know the speculation behind that? Well, Ronald D. Moore kind of hinted at what it was actually during, I think, a convention. So it's not really speculation. It's just not canon just yet. But
right, yes, I was wondering.
Yeah, he was saying that in the world of For All Mankind, that you have Star Trek: The Original Series, Star Trek Phase 2.
Yes, I did hear that Phase 2 happened.
Yeah.
Oh, Next Generation is the next. Okay, because I was thinking, even though his favorite series is probably Deep Space Nine, you can't have Deep Space Nine without TNG.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Okay, there
I
you
mean,
go.
but
There's the answer. Because I was thinking most people don't include the animated series because even people who create and love Star Trek always forget the animated series.
yeah, and I think in this universe, I mean, to have only 3, because this is 2003, so even then we had TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, and Voyager by then. So it's 5 shows. And so I think the
Yes.
implication here is that when you have so much stuff in space, that
6, including the animated series. Go ahead.
well, yes. Well, I mean that one. I always attribute that one to being just like an extension of the original series. So it's like not,
Yeah, some people. Well, and I do think it is the last 2 years in the 5-year mission,
yeah. I mean, I
but
consider
it's
that
still its own
to be
series.
that. But yeah, generally speaking, I think it would imply that in the world of For All Mankind, that because we're out in space and doing all this stuff, that there's sort of like a pullback on science fiction in the real world. And I think that's kind of an interesting idea.
I mean, it has the opposite effect that the first moon landing had, where science fiction went crazy. And since there's so much real space travel, it is walking back on that. And that is a fictional. I would think the opposite would happen, really. But I
That's what I'm
guess
saying. I
I
think it's
guess
it's interesting that they would have thought that it would have went the other way, because I mean that's the implication that kind of comes with that. I mean, I would assume that we could have ended up with at least 2 more shows um, coming out of a world with landing on the moon and colonizing it, and now moving on to Mars. I mean the possibilities are possibly kind of crazy.
yeah, but for some reason we don't get Deep Space Nine, Voyager, or Enterprise.
Yeah.
So that, or at least not yet. I don't know if they'll,
Yeah.
but it'd be weird. And timeline wise, it'd be weird if they inserted them. But maybe this is it.
Hmm.
And
I can only
well,
hope
then
that
that answers my question because I was trying to speculate what was going on because we have the original series in phase 2. And if we're pretending animated series doesn't exist, then I
Mhm.
was wondering if it was TNG or what was going on. So thank you
Yeah.
for answering my question via
Yeah.
some convention.
Well, I think that I would just hope that when they got
Hmm.
to the next gen movies, that they would keep the Enterprise D instead of moving to the Enterprise E. But that is a personal opinion.
Oh yeah, right. Let's have a For All Mankind universe. Troy does not crash the ship this time. Generations is actually competently written. They allowed Spock to make the changes in the script that he wanted, and he gets to be in the movie. Okay, I sorry, and it's all
It makes
better.
it stirs your imagination, and so
It
that's good.
does.
But anyway,
Yeah, we'd get off into a Star Trek tangent there, but I had to. You can't not mention that part.
especially with that scene, yeah.
They have TNG, then they must have Babylon 5 as well, and don't give me parallel universe differentiation. I'm fine with that. We just have confirmation that there's no Deep Space Nine as of 2003 in For All Mankind.
Hmm.
So maybe Michael Straczynski didn't give
J.
his
Michael
his
Straczynski.
Bible
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
Paramount this time, and so we only have Babylon 5. Oh, so anyway, Margot and Sergey have a meeting at Alita's house. They do some science and some mathematics. It's great, great little. I always love any papers full of any any physics or whatever's going on here. Summation, Riemann summations, and Goldilocks, Earth orbit, exposure, trajectories. figuring out all that. And
Did I lose you, Joe?
oh yeah, and so they use all of that to figure out how to get the travel time for the asteroid down to 9 months. And as soon as it's in Earth orbit, he also says, "Oh, as soon as we got the asteroid, though, pretty much nobody's going to care about Mars anymore for some reason, and NASA's going to follow this lead." And this is Margot finally agrees with that. Without competition, there's no progress.
Mm.
And then Victor sends the kids to bed. Margot's handing out Tootsie Rolls. And Sergey gives Margot a CD, which reminds you of him picking out all of those records in previous seasons, where they share jazz and classical music together. And then he comes up with the plan to save both himself and Margot from the danger that they're in. He's decided that they could move to Brazil. He's got some friends who can get them to Brazil, and if they can get to Brazil, they can work with their space agency and bring that space agency up to date. It'll be just like Apollo Soyuz days. And then Brazil can be brought into as a major space power, which would be fun. I love the idea of this, but of bringing more countries into the fold, it's just like it's weird to me that Japan's not on Mars, for example. And there are so many countries that I would think in this universe that would make it.
I do recall at least like a couple of astronauts wearing Japanese patches. That's about all I think we see.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good. I totally missed that. I'm glad that they did that. I just need to see this mission through. Wait, who is in the M7? I forget. Because I forget about all the names we talk about. Okay, yeah, Japan, India, North Korea. Okay. European Space Agency. Okay, gotcha. They're there. They're just not part of the main plot. They're not our heroes.
Well, maybe one day.
I was, this episode's great at manipulating your emotions because you just start having fantasies of Margot and Sergey working together. Like I remember that he has a wife, so I guess he's just gonna abandon her and they're gonna run off to Brazil and fix their space agency there. But I guess
maybe it was a marriage of convenience or something, but I think ultimately Margot is like the person that he cares about, first.
While I agree with you completely, you should have left her a note or something. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe nothing that actually reveals anything, but some kind of closure. But
that's what makes what happens later kind of complicated.
I don't even remember her name, so
I don't know if she even
can't
got
really say that I can. Oh no! Does Sergey's wife have a name? Hold on. Her name is Muriel Bazooka.
Okay.
So there you go.
I think Greek letters is no. They named the episode because they're referring to trying to start up the Brazilian space agency and make it more in line with the rest of the countries that are competing for Mars and the moon.
Yeah, maybe this is still an indication that Brazil is going to do something, but it's not going to have Margot helping. Or, okay, she's either going to Brazil or she's going to. She can't go to anywhere on Earth because the U.S. government and the Russian government want her. So she's either going to escape to Brazil somehow or to Mars. Which I think, I don't know. I guess we'll find out in season 5. That's one good thing we can pin for next week to talk about in a little more depth.
Yeah.
For December 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Did I lose you again?
Hello? Oh yeah. I was saying I'm so sorry. Yeah, you did
Sorry.
lose me. I was talking about how Margot is essentially going to prison. So we'll talk about it when we get there again.
Right.
Oh no, they've abducted Jill. No, the only thing abducted is my voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's partially here. So Eli Hobson's watching Danielle sharing the serial number, and that she's found through the serial number that so many more things have been stolen, and so the boxes are there, but the boxes have been filled with the wrong things, and so she has a list of all the things that have been stolen, and these aren't actually things that are practical to steal or really very valuable at all. I mean, they're valuable because they're electronics, but it's not a normal heist, and so she can't figure out exactly what's going on. She thinks that there's a secret team trying to commit sabotage. She doesn't know yet that they're trying to steal the asteroid. She just thinks that they want to destroy the mission. And so that's her detective workout in play. And of course, she figures it out pretty quickly because the device had that serial number to make things easy to track. Largely communications and computer gear. And Arena from Moscow is being notified of all this. And Cho is looking at the surveillance footage, and he sees Miles, and he follows him on the camera, but then he sees that Miles is going in an elevator, but he can't see where Miles is exiting. And so if he can't see where he's exiting, he must be exiting on one of the lower levels that are blocked off, or supposedly blocked off. Oh. And of course he's correct. But we cut to a discussion about how all the stolen equipment could be some kind of sabotage, and of course Eli Hobson sees these people as, from his perspective on Earth, he sees them as essentially terrorists because of that explosion that occurred. And so he thinks this sabotage is going to be another Another such event that is violent. That on top of the space center being destroyed. He thinks it's a culmination of that kind of attitude happening. And Arena backs this up, saying, quoting something, she says, a simplified version of Dostoevsky, saying, no matter how resplendent a crystal palace is, there will always be some asshole who wants to bring it crashing down. And so they only have 24 hours until the final burn, so that's our ticking time clock. We're less than a day. And Morozova says they should use the CIA and KGB agents they have on the base already to deal with this. And so Danny meets with them, with the KGB agent. And the KGB agent is going to show up in just a minute. And he's the KGB agent is Timur Avalov, and the CIA agent turns out to be Mike Bishop. So my theory that it was Sam was incorrect. I thought it was going to be Sam. But Mike Bishop's disguised as the NAS engineer, and Timur Avalov was disguised as the Helios worker, which is interesting because he was part of the strike, and he played his part there. And they managed to keep what they were really doing a secret the entire time. This is a really great actor. Who is it? Who plays? I wanted to see who plays Mike Bishop because he does a really good job at being an evil an evil agent. They're both morally questionable. I kind of don't like that they're portrayed this way, but it kind of falls in line with what did happen in the early 2000s with the Guantanamo Bay and all of that stuff. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Bishop for All Mankind. Actor is Billy Lush. Is that right? Oh, goodness. Why is this so difficult? Portrayed by. Yeah, Billy Lush. And yeah, he does a good job, is all I want to say. Now I can actually look at this stuff, not worry about any kind of spoilers or anything. And so anyway, Danny wants them to question Miles because his name was brought up when the North Koreans were yelling at her about the antennae communications device that they found behind their monitor, tapping into their communications, their cameras. And the KGB agent already knows that Miles runs the black market. And so this is where Kelly has that moment where she reconciles with her dad. She talks about his behavior recently, and she grills him about it. She knows that he's been lying. She's very suspicious of her dad and sure that he and Dev are doing something together. She knows he's lying. Oh no, they don't have their reconciliation yet. They drag it out a bit, but that's going to happen soon. So Cho's on the trail to where Miles is, and he discovers it's been the elevator's been tampered with. So he figures out their secret route to access level -4. And Miles is sent on a task, but the task is actually not to maintain a cooling system, but to be tortured by Mike and Timmer, the CIA and KGB agents. Imagine them, CIA and KGB, working together to commit war crimes. Well, I guess, to break the Geneva Convention. I don't know, when does that happen?
Well, I mean, it's on Mars, so how many Earth laws are applicable there? That's the real question.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is where Ed breaks down and has his talk with Kelly about not wanting to just die and as an invalid old man who doesn't even know who he is anymore and drooling all over himself. He wants to die doing something important, leaving something behind for others to benefit from, and especially Kelly and her son Alex. And she's she hugs him and then she's like, "Now, really, what the hell are you up to?" but it's like it's a nice moment. And so you get the feeling, well, he doesn't we don't see how he responds to that. So let's cut to Mike and Timur starting their interrogation session against Miles. First, they say you're looking at charges of smuggling, tax evasion, and you don't care about all that. You're gonna be punished for what you've been doing in terms of the black market that you've been partaking in. But Miles nothing phases Miles. Not even getting beaten up, they beat the crap out of him.
Mm-hmm. This is a guy who's not even like trained to withstand this level of like torture and humiliation.
No, he's just some guy who he's
Just a regular guy.
he's just a regular guy who is just trying to feed his family and turned into a crime boss selling Martian jewelry as if there wasn't anything valuable on Mars. Everybody's saying there's nothing valuable on Mars, but Miles can find valuable things on Mars. So that whole idea seems pretty wrong. And, anyway. Yeah, that's a good point. He's not in any way capable of handling this, and yet he does.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a naturally strong will. And he cares enough about this to endure almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
They even try to guilt trip him. They try everything. When we're going to see how it devolves. So Cho from the North Korean commander from he finds ghost ops. But there's a fight and Lee get into the fight. Gerardo tries to help and Lee chokes out Cho and he knocks him, gets him to the point of losing consciousness. So I was wondering what they were going to do, just tie him up until they stole the asteroid. But we see they do resolve this. And so we'll see that in a bit. Sergey and Margot return to they go back to where they're living in their hotel rooms. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
And here the fight's still happening. And yeah, at first she's actually really surprised to see that it's Cho, and that he just conked him on the head first before even knowing who it was. Margot's listening and enjoying the CD that Sergey bought for her, and while enjoying her cheeseburger with an entire bottle of ketchup thrown all over it. It's a mini bottle, but that's still a lot of ketchup.
A woman after my own heart.
Yeah, it's just I like ketchup too, but it's a little much. And you think it's kind of a happy scene, really? Seems like it anyway.
Yeah.
Because Sergey also has his own cheeseburger. He's got a Big Mac from McDonald's, and he also adds extra ketchup. But before he can even enjoy a bite of it, he's assassinated. He's killed, and the KGB agent is really sloppy. I think in terms of making it seem like a suicide. First of all, he puts the gun in the wrong hand. He puts it in the right hand, and then he puts it in the other hand? I don't understand. But there must have been too many onions on that burger that somehow transmitted through the TV, because I definitely was upset at Sergey dying. It was a shock during what seemed like a wholesome scene. And death by hitman. That's the worst. He didn't even get to be a hero first or anything. He just, I mean, even the mathematics that he provided was not even going to be used, because you already know, based on the setup of everything, basically Mars is set up to get the asteroid. And so, but also the assassin was also sloppy, because you should have shot him after he eats his Big Mac, because who buys a burger and then offs themselves before they eat it? I don't know.
I would have just, if I was the assassin, the first thing I would have done is at least give him a bite. Let him have that, that satisfaction, and then do it, I guess.
Right, exactly. Like, if there's just like letting someone have a last cigarette.
Yeah.
Cheeseburger's basically a cigarette.
It's kind of respect, but it's also just decent manners. But this guy just has no manners.
Well, we're assuming that he's KGB, and I guess they just don't care. KGB or CIA, I don't even know anymore. It seems like they're interchangeable now. But I guess it's done in a way to where the local authorities will say it's suicide, but the governments will say, oh, okay, we know this wasn't really a suicide. We're not fooled. And so I guess they want the government to know that, no, it wasn't a suicide for some reason. But of course I hate it, because I love Sergey. He's such a great and sweet character. And he's the one who has to die in these last 2 episodes, but that's a terrible way to kill him, just because someone has to die in the lead up to a season finale.
I don't know. I heard a term that I'd never heard before, and I'm not really sure how it's applied, but it was told to me that when you write a character, and say, for example, they're like in a relationship, and typically the stereotypical way to do it is you usually end up killing off the female partner in the relationship in service of a character arc for the male. But in this, and that they call it being fridged, if I'm not mistaken. But in this case, it's kind of the reverse, where the male partner is the one who gets offed in service of the female's character's arc.
Oh. Yeah, but what about Sergey's wife? It just looks like he disappeared for a while and then killed himself. It's awful. Poor Muriel.
Yeah. And she has like no context of like the broader scope of everything. It's just like for her, she just woke up one day and then he left and then drove to some random place 1,000 miles away and then killed himself.
Yeah, that's that's gonna be pretty messed up for her. But of course, also for Margot, which is the character we actually care about, and you're right, it's gonna do something to her. And I'm gonna be right back. The song for this episode is Creole Rhapsody, parts 1 and 2 by Duke. Let me see. Let me read this correctly. By Duke Ellington and his famous orchestra, which is a really good song. I really like that one. But I have to step away for just a minute. I just remembered something, and I have to go check. I will be right back. If you could
take it out.
You could talk about what you think about this episode before we get into the next one. Perestroika.
Yeah, it's about a good enough time as any for a slight intermission. But yeah, no, I think this was a great penultimate episode before we get to our season, and thankfully not series finale. And yeah, there's a lot of things said. This is like the jumping off point to a feature length movie, essentially, is what we're going on, because I think it's like an hour and 20. But yeah, I mean, we get the death of Sergei, which is like enormous. And I think even when we see him first introduced in like season 2, he never kind of oozed anything that was like sleazy. He was kind of always kind of authentic and honest in kind of like a nerdy way. And I think that's why we wanted them as an audience to have Sergei and Margot kind of hook up. But now that this is the ultimate fate of him, it's kind of like, I mean, it's sad. We won't be able to see that happen. But ultimately, it does make Margot have to make a decision, and we'll get to that in a moment. But even beyond that, I mean, we have all these threads. I mean, the budding little coup on Mars to get the asteroid into Mars orbit to kind of dissuade any of the efforts of people on Earth. And I think we'll get to that kind of greater point later. Since the show kind of leans on this idea that if they give up or put the asteroid in orbit of Earth, then they're kind of saying goodbye to space exploration. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with the point, because I don't know why we couldn't do both, but at least in this context. But even beyond that, I'm thinking that when you do such a thing like that, I mean, there's no reason they couldn't run into more asteroids and exploit the resources on those. And why can't there be another asteroid that they can just move into Mars orbit? Well, either way, these are verging on speculation that we can kind of get into next season. But ultimately, we're still in 2003, and we're still at a point where I think they're about 10 or 15 years ahead technologically. So there's kind of things you're seeing that were starting to come out around 2010, 2015, which I think is interesting. But beyond that, we're getting to the point where they're already at Mars and they're already setting up things on Mars. And I'm left to speculate that once this is all set up, where do we go from here? What's the next horizon, the next stop? And I think that's a point that I'll pick up on next week for the speculation. But overall, I think the Brazil thing, there's a part of me that thinks that I really wanted to see Sergei and Margot kind of like the happy ending is them, leaving, going to, help build up the Brazilian Space Agency. And that could have been an interesting, plot line. But I don't know, maybe functionally it was kind of never going to happen. It was more or less a red herring, but it's mostly based on the idea that, if they're going to go do such a thing, that, ultimately I think Margot is a woman in her 60s. I mean, she's going to be like starting something from scratch, at an older age. And so, how would that kind of work functionally as an idea. So I think that was always going to not really work. I mean, isn't that to say that older people can't really contribute to society? They often do. But starting something from like complete scratch like that is, still imposing a tall order. And then next season, she'll be in her 70s. I mean, right now, Ed's in his 70s. So, I mean, we're going to end up in a situation next season when Ed's going to be in his 80s. I mean, the joke is that, by the time we get to season 7, he'll be like 100. And
or
that'll be funny.
we'll reach transhumanism, and he's the singularity is here, and he transfers into a robot.
Or he
probably
transfers
not.
his consciousness into like a 40-year-old version of himself. Then we get to see him back in his season 1 spry self.
Oh, that's right. The way he looks normally. And so that would be good. We'll get rid of the beard and everything, and so Alex doesn't have to say, "You look like a bear."
Yeah.
So let's start talking about that. That was really good filler. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking for me while I stepped away. It was really great stuff.
I try. But yeah, now we get to dive into the actual final.
Yeah, the actual final episode of the season is episode 10, Perestroika. It first aired on January 12th, 2024. Runtime of 76 minutes combined with the 46-minute episode of the last episode. This is nearly 2 hours of television. That's a
full movie.
Yep. And for our writers, we have Matt Wolpert and Ben Nadivi. Directed again by Sergio Mamica Gazan. And that's also what makes it feel like a movie too, is when you have these recurring directors or across several episodes. It kind of keeps the style similar.
Yeah.
So as soon as we get through the credits here, we'll be moving on to the next episode, where we have a bit of a flashback.
Oh, yes.
Here's all the wonderful actors who made the penultimate episode possible. Even though, and next week we might be talking about some of them in a little more depth of whatever I can find. That's going to be interesting. Whatever research I'm able to come up with. Now that I can actually do that research without worrying about spoilers. 2 months ago, Frank Tuttle. We learn about Frank Tuttle finds that gun that Lee had. Lee had a gun instead of a suicide pill. North Korea gave him a gun to end it if he needed to, and it ended up being buried with a wrench sticking out of the sand, or sticking out of the dust, the dirt, Martian dirt. And so Frank finds it, and he finds the wrench, and he digs and finds the gun, and he brings it back to Happy Valley to hide in his locker.
I think it's interesting to point out that on the handle of the pistol, it's inscribed in Korean something to the effect of like, protect the leader at all costs.
And that's kind of ironic given what actually happens at the end of this episode with that gun. In terms of, well, Danny is the leader of Happy Valley. But I knew this gun would make a comeback when I saw it getting buried. I just wondered
it's
where.
It's the old Chekhov's gun. You set it up in the beginning, it has to go off in the last act.
Literally is. That's right.
Chekhov's Martian Korean pistol.
And so Ranger is working on the mission to bring the asteroid to Earth. Goldilocks, everything's being monitored. Palmer is starting to suspect Samantha, but he doesn't really do any action. I guess he doesn't have a reason to lock her up, but I think he feels like he wants to. I don't know what's holding him back. And so they need to burn for 20 minutes in order to slow the asteroid down enough. This is the Ghost Op team. They need to slow the asteroid enough to get it to orbit Mars instead of Earth. And then they set up then the Ranger sets up their plasma engines for the final burn. Danielle is supervising everything for this episode, for this mission. And Dev is also there where Danielle is, so that he could send secret messages in Morse code down to Ghost Ops, because he wants the asteroid to be around Mars also.
Wait a minute. So I may have missed that episode or that discussion,
Yeah.
but do you already know what happened to Daniel or Danny Stevens?
Yes, you were. I suppose you weren't here. I did
Okay.
see Danny. They didn't show us exactly the methodology that he used to end his life, but yes, I did see him dead, and he could have, like, either ran out of, or he didn't eat his food so that the rest of the people on Mars could eat his food. That's one thing that I guessed, or he just let the oxygen run out of his suit.
Yeah, because there's a rumor, or rather a joke, kind of a half joke, and I guess I didn't mention it to you because I don't remember. I don't remember saying it on the podcast, but I wanted to mention it. Was that the speculation is that because everybody's looking kind of like emaciated and kind of like super like gaunt, and everybody was kind of joking that
Yes.
they kind of maybe Donner partied Danny Stevens after the fact.
Oh my God! What?
Yeah, I thought it was crazy.
Here I was thinking, oh, Danny did one final act of kindness by not eating his food, starving himself, and so that the people on the base could eat. And now you're saying they were cannibals.
They don't say it, but they look. They feel like there's an impression that they feel bad, like beyond normal feeling bad, and I feel like that would be the only other way to feel like really,
Oh,
really bad. But I don't know.
whoa. Okay,
It's not.
that's a interesting
It's it's
theory.
it's a theory, but it's very. It's crazy that could be a possibility.
When you've got to survive,
You gotta do what
people
you
do
gotta do.
desperate things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. I guess there's no confirmation of that. It's only a theory.
Yes.
So I don't want to say Ed and Danny are cannibals. But I guess maybe one day we'll find out.
Well, I
Or we
mean,
won't.
like those guys that got stranded on in the Andes for a little bit. Like, we don't judge them for doing what they did necessarily. I mean, they had to do what they had to do, and obviously, I don't think they continued doing so after the fact when they got back to civilization. But I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right. Now they want human bacon. No. No,
yeah,
I don't think that's what happened.
mm, I'd
So
hope not.
that makes sense. Sorry.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I didn't get a chance to. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Ah, that's horrible. But it's possible. It's not
Mhm.
impossible. They didn't have aliens. They didn't get a nuclear holocaust, but they have cannibals. Great. That's just great. This is Greek letters, Larson. Possibly. Possible. Definitely highly possible. Man, I did not even think of that. That's crazy.
I got that from somebody who mentioned it on Reddit, so blame the Reddit.
Oh, yeah, Reddit. Reddit's a great resource, great communications when they're not censoring everything.
Sure.
And the argon fuel injectors have been rerouted. They're doing all the systems checks, all the sciencey stuff. After we authenticate the final command sequence for the slingshot from Houston, we will remotely initiate the final Earth burn, and so that's the plan anyway. And oh, did I miss that? Lee is thinking he needs to take Cho to the medical bay, and I do appreciate that they realize that his life is in danger and they should take him to infirmary. So they do. And I'm glad they didn't show the rogue team as willing to kill through medical negligence. So that's what I meant about this writing, where they're not writing people as assholes for no reason. So I did appreciate this. Reddit is toxic, nuclear level toxic. Yeah, but when you're looking for some kind of conversation about something, sometimes it's an interesting resource.
Well, I think it depends where on Reddit you're ultimately visiting.
Away from Reddit, children. It will ruin your life.
I think Twitter is slowly but surely getting worse, but yeah, it could just be said of all social media, essentially.
Basically, it says, yeah, and that's Greek letter Larson's advice, but in essence, children shouldn't be on social media anyway for those reasons. They need a children's Wikipedia or something, but not a Reddit. And Kimberly says, "I'm just glad you're feeling better, Joe." Yeah, I'm better enough to talk. My voice is still a little gravelly, but you can hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What's
I mean, if you want to put a number on it, I feel like you're like 95% there.
Yeah, just a few pieces missing. So Miles is being tortured by the KGB and the CIA, who have teamed up together to poison him with carbon dioxide.
Yeah, the unholy alliance.
So, within this past year, I've seen Man from U.N.C.L.E. for the very first time, which is also a team up between an American spy and a Russian spy, which it's really sweet and wholesome and wonderful. And they don't do anything like this to anybody.
Yeah, it's an inversion.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I was watching this. With Solo and Ilya. Or you just need to get a cough drop. I do have cough drops, but I'm only going to use them in case of an emergency. So far, I've been able to handle it without it, because I don't actually want the sounds of me, eating the candy on the stream if I can avoid it. But if I have to, I will use them. I thought today's show was Philip and Marge Simpson.
Wouldn't that be something?
No, yeah, that's exactly what I sound like a bit. So this is also an obvious throwback, a commentary on the torture that happened at Guantanamo Bay and other places towards potential enemies.
Yeah, it's like Guantanamo Bay and the kind of sort of the stuff at Abu Ghraib, but yeah.
Yeah, the CIA waterboarded, and I guess KGB will just beat the hell out of you, and so then put them together. This is what you get. and so they put the masks on. Miles really handles this really well. I was surprised. He throws up, but he still refuses to talk. But then he makes the biggest fatal mistake. He says, "I just want to be back with my family," which of course directs
Mhm.
the agents to his biggest weakness.
Yeah.
He was doing so well until he said that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to be what's going to happen next is a threat to her. Margot is asleep on the couch and woken up by Eli Hobson's assistant Tim. And Eli is with Irina Morozova. And Margot is surprised she's not in Russia, not at Star City. So this is a shock for her that she's there. So the next thing she does is she asks Aleda to tell Sergei to get out of town because he's in danger. But we could have used that in the last episode. It's kind of a little late here. So we're gonna see the results of that soon. How are you? I'm okay. I could be better, but we're here and you can hear me, so we're gonna go on with the Philippine and Marge Simpson show. But it's too late. So tell him to leave. He can't be in Houston anymore. I mean, KGB's been there the whole time, and I'm not sure the difference that Irina being around makes unless she's the one who orchestrated the assassination, which is probably the case. And Danielle meets with Bishop, and he tells her that Miles still isn't talking. She tells him to keep questioning. Of course, she has no idea that they're torturing him.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Margot says, "That's right, Kimberly. Kind of hard to settle in when you're followed everywhere you go." And so
Mm.
Irina comforts her and says, "Well, don't worry about that. As soon as this mission is over, we'll be straight back to Russia." And, and Margot's like, "Wonderful." In a way, in a way that you know that she really does not think it's very wonderful.
Right.
And Danny makes the decision to order everybody who's not essential to the mission to their quarters because she is zeroed in on this mission. She wants to succeed, and anybody who could potentially get in the way of that needs to get out of the way. It's comforting to see that in the future, despite our technological progress, our spacefaring ability, people still crash on their couch. It gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling of pessimism. But it's just Margot's style. If she's working hard on something, she'd rather just fall asleep where she's working rather than going back to her hotel room or her house. Or she lived at the Johnson's the Space Center this entire series, so it just falls
Basically.
back into that. She only goes
Yeah.
to the hotel because the KGB agents make her. But Danielle's on top of this, on top of it. She wants to figure out who might sabotage the Ranger. So we've got the security teams. They're sweeping base. They're trying to search. They're searching everybody's stuff for the stolen equipment. And they're sending people off to their quarters, and some people are not taking it seriously, so they are taken away by force. It really carrying out Danny's orders. They seem like a good idea, but it's making things really nasty on the morale side of things. So one thing is during the search, Lowry finds the gun and he puts it in his pocket. So the gun has moved to Nate Lowry's pocket.
Yeah, the gun's changing hands.
Yes. And Aleda makes it to Sergei's motel and asks about him. And the clerk, she's sad. She tells Aleda that he killed himself. And this, of course, is unbelievable to Aleda. And there's some really, really great acting here when she gets in the car. She cries and screams, and I think it was an interesting choice for us not to hear her screaming. And so they play some kind of music, and it works really well emotionally. And Miles is still being interrogated, and this time instead of attacking him and his person, which doesn't work, they attack his family. They say Amanda is an accessory. She can get 5 years in prison due to all the smuggling you've been doing and how she helps with it. And the children will be okay because they'll be with the Child Protective Agency. And so this breaks Miles' defenses, and so he tells the agents about the ghost communications ops on sub-level 4. Yeah, so that Amanda doesn't get 5 years for felony, theft, and distribution. And so her kids don't get sent into foster care as she's in prison for 5 years. That would be so terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't blame Miles for breaking for that.
No.
But is this a weakness that's going to be exploited later, because it doesn't resolve exactly. Greek letter says, oh yeah, I already read that one. Sorry. Opscom, there's only 50. Okay, so there's 54 minutes left until the burn. And Dev sends a message to the team that the Danielle is coming for them. Danielle and her team are coming for them, so they have to leave. He sends a message Mayday, so they know that they're coming, because he's been sending Morse code messages to them this whole episode. And so they clear out, and they escape from their ghost ops before Danielle gets there. And by the time Danielle's security gets there, the ghost team is already gone. And it looks like their plan is a bust, but everything that has happened so far requires their plan to succeed. The only mystery for me was how that happened. And so that's that. So Danielle's slowly figuring out what the ghost ops were. All the equipment was to make another OpsCom. And Eli Hobson meets with Arena and Will Tyler, and they talk about how the Ghost Ops team were going to steal the asteroid. And yeah, that's possible. But they say, don't worry about it. We still have control of the engines. It's going to be okay. And so that. Oh, right. What the hell is wrong with you? That was a good moment there because Gerardo is the only one who wasn't able to escape ghost ops and is caught by the security. And Bishop is nearly choking him. And so Danielle is saying, what the hell is wrong with you? This is the first time Danielle realizes there's something wrong with Bishop and his methodology.
Yeah.
So the Ghost Ops team escaped to the North Korean sector of Happy Valley, which was a good choice because you need approval from higher ups to invade this part of the base, which is what they go for immediately, but they have to get approval. And Holly says the mission's over, but Dev says it appears that way. And yeah, so it only appears that way. Then we head back to Mission Control, where they work on the burn calculations, which are uploaded to Ranger. But Margot has to get the news from Aleda about what happened to Sergei. And Margot tries to bottle up the emotions, but what ends up happening is that whatever grief she was feeling turns into anger.
Yeah.
And so instead of breaking down, she kind of makes herself look a little crazy in front of everybody. She goes to confront Arena, who's with Eli Hobson, and said, "What did you do?" And nobody knows what she's accusing Arena of, except for Arena, of course, who did it.
Yeah.
But once she sees, because all these people think she's a traitor, everybody thinks Margot's just a traitor, and so they don't know why she's yelling at Arena. And so she walks off. Then Gerardo is brought with Miles in the interrogation room. He laments that this has all been for nothing. We did all this because they can no longer communicate with the device, and so they can't direct the asteroid. I got to take a minute.
Okay. But as you see here, there's some interesting tension being built up as we slowly but surely have all these threads kind of coming to a head. So, between the drama on the Ranger, between the sort of interrogation scene we have on the surface of on the Mars base, and then we have a lot of things happening, and I think once Jill gets back, we'll be able to explore more.
Yeah, well, what's happening right now is that OpsCom are still on track. Everything looks like the final burn is going to be fine because the final burn starts. And so they think everything's going to go well and they'll be able to stop it when they need to. And oops. Back in the North Korea section, they think about what they can do next. And it seems like, all hope is lost essentially because they don't have the connection with that device anymore.
Mm.
But then Ed gets a great moment noticing the S-band transmitter, so that he realizes they can communicate using the North Korean devices. They can communicate with Sam, who is on the Ranger. And if they can communicate with her, they can get her, even though they don't have the discriminator anymore, they can they can manually disconnect the engine from the controls. And if Samantha can override that system and then place a transmitter on the override, then Dev can control the burn. And so all she has to do is a spacewalk. She needs to do an EVA to reach it. So that's now that's going to be how Sam is going to help here. So all Lee has to do is get in contact with Park Chu Moy, who is on the Ranger. He's a science officer on the mission. And Sam will be given the information she needs to do the spacewalk, to stop those, or to keep the engines running so that they can get it in orbit around Mars. And Kimberly says, do I have the skills to be a leader? Oh yeah, Marco. Well, I guess she's going to be a leader in prison now. We'll see. I thought she was going to go to prison before, and she didn't go to prison. So even though it looks like she's going to prison, how is Marco going to weasel her way out of prison this time? And it won't allow them to stop their own burn. So they explain the plan again. We already explained it, so we don't have to explain it again. They explain it again for Samantha's benefit. So she's gonna do her spacewalk to do what they need to do. To get the asteroid burning. And so she goes outside of the ship, and she confirms and the rest of the crew, of course, you can't leave a ship and not everybody not know what just happened. So they all notice that she left. And Samantha is starting her job. She's using her tether to keep her attached to the ship. And when she removes the access panel, we get the access panel showing us the danger of what she's doing, because the access panel just flies away into the engines and gets incinerated in the exhaust. And all she has to do is lift the override handle. Did we get to that yet? I wasn't looking at the slides. What are the slides doing? Approval for what? Oh, approval to go into the North Korean section of the base. And he's not here with me. Don't start that. Okay, so we're not there. I'm getting way ahead of. I'm behind my slides, so let's pause it there.
Okay.
So I must have missed the part where I wanted to see that though. I wanted to see the part where the panel disappears into the engine. Because that was a great way to show how dangerous it is without killing anybody.
Yeah.
All right. You got to pull it out to the override position, but every time she pulls it out, it pops back in. And then once she can get it out, she can put in the transmitter. So So Ed says, "Why don't you use your tether? Didn't you want to be an astronaut?" And so she does. It's all she's got. It's the only way to get that. It's the only way to get that out. If those engines burn even for a few seconds longer, yeah, then they won't have it. Then it won't go to Earth. Okay, so Palmer's told to go stop Sam from what she's doing. And she says, okay, Ed says, "Now under the panel, you'll see a handle with yellow and black markings. That's the override switch to engage it. You got to pull it out to the override position." So and eventually that ends to her using her tether to achieve that. And they realize she's trying to disconnect them from the plasma engines, so they can't control the engine anymore, or they can't stop it. And Palmer's sent out to stop her. And then Bishop tells Danielle that Cho's been unconscious since the morning. And oh yeah, that's where he's notified Houston already to get authorization to go into the North Korean sector, which they can't do because it's North Korean territory. They're not allowed on there without approval. And Danielle takes a moment. She tries to solve all of this on her own by talking to Ed. She knows where Ed is. So, and eventually Ed does answer with possibly our very last "Hi, Bob." And when Ed says "Hi, Bob," I thought that Danielle would say something like, "Don't you hi Bob me," because they did that before.
Yeah.
They did that line before. It would have been a fun repeat. And she tries to reason with him, but he's but he says it's gonna kill Mars if the asteroid's sent to Earth. And she says we're doing what's best for mankind on Earth, and Earth is our home. Mars is not our home. But Ed has the opposite opinion. For him, Mars is his home now. It's where his grandson can live and without medical issues, and it's where his daughter is searching for life, and it's where he feels like he has some kind of importance and capability of doing something meaningful. So he's happy on Mars, and he wants Mars to thrive, and so she cannot convince him. His family's here, his future is here. And Lee agrees with the sentiment. So she can't change Ed's mind now, but at least she tried. And Greek letter says, "Have they tried the ancient and foolproof method of banging the damn thing with a spammer or a kick? That usually works." Yeah, maybe the system was just stuck and she just needed to smack it. I don't know. She definitely doesn't try that, but she uses her tether, which is her lifeline to the ship. If she gets jostled in any way, she could just be incinerated by the engines, just like that panel was. Oh, another thing Greek letter Larson says, those spacecraft have so many malfunctions that I'm beginning to believe that they have a sticker saying Acme on them. Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, and so Danny does not succeed in convincing Ed to Give it up. Words have no wings, but they can fly 1,000 miles. And so that's the Korean saying we're getting, or we're guessing is the Korean saying. So back at NASA, at the Molly Cobb Space Center, Eli and Arena are talking to the engineers, and they have an idea. They can rewrite some code to shut down the nuclear fusion controls, and the engines can't burn if they don't have any fuel. So this should work. And then Margot talks to Aleda in the viewing room, where she's reminiscing about her time with Werner von Braun, and how this was where she confronted him over his part in World War II and the atrocities and all of that. And she remembers something he said: progress is never free, as an excuse for what he's done. And Aleda tells her that she's not him. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about something, because I think because this is a parallel with what had happened with Werner von Braun, and she's kind of repeating what he had said, that progress was never free. And I'm kind of thinking this is going to be a through line that's going to even impact Aleda and some, later character that she'll have to mentor. I mean, I think that's what we're going with this sort of arc. But
oh, right. Because Aleda has to do something morally ambiguous for her character to mirror Margot, and this is the first thing she does.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe it'll be something like Mars Independence. We'll see.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. That's going to be something interesting. Okay, so put a pin in that one for December 3rd too.
Yeah, we're just stacking all these different speculative ideas for next week.
Definitely. And in this case, though, Aleda does not reject Margot the way that Margot rejected Werner, and so in fact, she goes along with her plan. Because the reasoning that the Mars program will die if Mars doesn't get the asteroid is what motivates both of them to go against NASA.
Yeah, and then actually, now that we're at that point, because I was mentioning kind of in the intermission, if we're going to call it that the reasoning behind this is a little bit odd, considering the fact that they could just come into they could discover just another asteroid and then just park that asteroid around Mars and then just leave Goldilocks in front of Earth, and then you could basically have the same situation happen, where you can do both things. Have this rapid industry built up around this like multi-trillion-dollar asteroid, and then have the same thing happen on Mars. I don't know if I'm all that sold on the idea that if you just move the asteroid to Earth, that you've somehow killed space exploration, or that things stop after that. But
yeah, I agree with you. Goldilocks isn't the only asteroid out there. There are other asteroids in the universe with potentially valuable materials on them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mars could still be on the forefront of mining these asteroids. There are fields of them, and so I think I'm with you on that one. I guess you have to wait for one to get close enough, but they come around. There are so many of them that just get captured by Jupiter, and that we never even know about, or we know about them, but they don't have any. They don't pose danger to Earth thanks to the gravitation of Jupiter. So yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think that Mars had to die because they didn't get Goldilocks, but that's what they went with. That's what they went with this season.
Although it is important to remember that now that this is going to be the scenario that they end up with, because they said the profit margins for moving the asteroid to Earth was going to basically mean that they could reach a return on investment within like 5 years. Whereas they were saying if they do it on Mars, it's going to be like 40.
Yeah, so now they're stuck with 40.
Yeah. So now it's going to be 2040s when they're going to see a return on investment from all that. So, I mean, if this is where things stay and they get no other asteroids, then yeah, now we know where the next few seasons could potentially be. Now we're getting back to speculation, but either way, I think that's an interesting note.
Oh, that is an interesting note. Thank you. Yeah, the economic impact is definitely a factor. We can surmise that, also speculate that Gore does not get a second term due to this fumble.
Yeah.
So Samantha is able to insert the transceiver and make sure that the override handle stays up using her tether. And so she has to keep it up for the entire duration of the burn so that the engines keep burning. But Palmer is here to throw a wrench in her plan. And she okay, so of course they start their fight. Or they're gonna have a fight. Does the fight start here? He's definitely upset.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the fight doesn't start just yet. He's just it takes time to crawl across these the space battles take a little while because having to deal with 0 Gs and traveling across a spaceship within just your spacesuit. So while we're waiting for him to get to Sam and have their little fight, we have Margot and Aleda doing some computer programming. So this is the thing I like to say, where I say it during lots of science fiction shows. Everyone is a computer programmer, but maybe in the For All Mankind universe, because of the advancements, I don't know. Maybe everyone learns to code in the For All Mankind universe, and it's great seeing some pseudocode. Actually, this is more than pseudocode. This is what and do index. So the index or the do index, that's got to be a for loop. Like, to me, it would be like a for loop. It's just a loop. So you do this thing for 15, from 0 to 15. And so basically this code is supposed to restart the engines. So it's going to override the command to stop the engines, to stop the nuclear systems. And so they work on this code to keep the burn going. And Aleda is going to do it because too many people are paying attention to Margot, she says. So I've got to do it. And so we got that going. Oh, and DJ Knight says, Margot, if we're able to insert this code directly into what Mokar is uploading. And Greek Letters Arson says, so she basically rides the spaceship from the outside while the engines burn. Does she go, yee-haw, like Dr. Strangelove? Unfortunately, no. That would have been a fun idea.
Well, not yet, anyway. We'll get there.
And so they start their scuffle. Yeah, they start a scuffle. They start to fight over the panel. And we get an extreme action programming sequence. Okay, so but this is how you know it's fantasy. I'm always down for computer programming, coding, race, but you know you're watching fantasy when they both finish in record time and no one makes even one syntax error. Like almost always somebody forgets a semicolon or they misspell something and the code doesn't work. It works. Both of them complete their coding perfectly.
No, it goes over my head.
Well, and they're typing so fast too, and that's why I think that there would be some kind of mistake. But I guess they're the best of the best, and he's able to submit his code, and she's able to overwrite it with her code, and without him realizing that she pushed her code on top of his. She doesn't realize it until afterwards. And it's uplinked. And the scuffle continues. And Palmer manages to push Samantha away from the panel, and she nearly does get incinerated at this point. Because she flies off the back of the ship, but she's able to hold on. While Palmer is cutting through the tether. He's only got a few seconds to cut through that tether to stop the engines because they don't really know about the override that NASA's doing. So it's kind of between the programming crew and also the stopping it manually. Because you got to have, something happening in space. So this is our space part. So this is where I have only one problem. Samantha manages to hang on, and she sneaks back up at this point. And this is where I have the problem, is that she's sneaking. Aren't the people on the Ranger watching all of the computer screens while this is happening? And wouldn't they warn Palmer, hey, Samantha's sneaking up on you? But nobody does that.
Well, it's the rule of drama.
Okay. And Samantha used her tether, so she doesn't have one, but luckily Palmer has one. And he's able to cut Samantha's tether. But she throws him off the ship. He's saved by his tether and is very nearly incinerated himself, but his tether prevents him from being killed, fortunately. I'm done with all of this nonsense death. I'm so glad Palmer didn't burn up in the ship's engines. Because one innocent man dying is enough for 2 episodes.
No, very true.
And for some reason, okay, so Commander, the asteroid is on track to enter Mars orbit. I know. I just need. I heard you. I just need a minute. Oh, poor Danielle. But I'm also. But there's also this idea that because the asteroid is now in Mars orbit, what exactly is stopping Earth from saying, okay, fine, but we're gonna come back and we're gonna take that asteroid back? Like, I don't know. Is it just the expense of it?
Maybe.
So, because it's not an impossible thing. If you can move an asteroid once, you can move it again.
Yeah.
But not only that, I was waiting for phase 2 of the plan to start. Because getting the engines to keep going is a good start to get the asteroid in Mars orbit. But you have to also stop them at a certain time to be able to keep proper orbit. But they don't show us that part of the plan. It's just over. Because if you just let it keep going and going, then it might be like, okay, now I'm just going to go off into the universe and nobody's going to get me. So there had to be a deceleration at some point, right?
Yeah.
Although we didn't get to see that part. So they cut out so I was a little upset with that, with a show that's supposed to be realistic. They kind of cut out that part of the mission. And Mission Control is stunned. Arena immediately suspects Aleda, who tries to lie, but the acting for Aleda is done so well because Aleda is shown to be an incredibly terrible liar. And you can see how she got fired from so many jobs. Like, no, I didn't set fire to that trash can. That was not me.
Yeah.
Oh man. And so luckily, however, Margot is a wonderful liar, and she takes the blame for Aleda. And this is also kind of the moment I was wondering if I should be worried about Aleda because obviously the KGB are watching Margot and they can see who she's interacting with the most, and I don't know if this is gonna put Aleda on their radar. I have a bad feeling about it, especially since Serena knows that it was Aleda, and I think what it was is that she knows. Arena knows Aleda did it. I don't believe that Arena thinks that Margot did it. She was just accepting that Margot is taking the blame for Aleda and allowing it. And that's what she means when she said you shouldn't have done that. And
yeah,
we get to see some good prowling from Arena. She's not happy. And we get to see the news reports about the theft of the asteroid. And Gore and Korozhenko have a meeting with the M7 and the UN Security Council. And Eli Hobson says anyone found to be involved will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which you mentioned earlier. What law, though? How much does Earth law apply when you live on Mars?
And how much did the M7 treaty actually cover, the scope of Earth laws?
Exactly. Now I'm a little behind with the slides, though, so we're catching up with the slides. I got excited talking about all that. I forgot to press play on the slides.
Understandably so.
DJ Knight says that Margot says, well, we can only hope if the engines keep burning. And they did. They did. Those engines kept burning. And somebody stopped the engines at some point. We get to see that. We don't get to see that. That happens off screen. It definitely happens. Let me guess, says Greek Letters Larson. The spaceship is going to stop suddenly, and she's going to slingshot in space from the moment. No. He also says they should have installed a HAL 9000 on that ship. That should make things go so much easier. Just saying. Yeah, right, because we all know how that ends. Our AI counterparts are so understanding and helpful.
That's one thing that we haven't seen yet is the development of AI in the For All Mankind universe, even though technically in the 2001 A Space Odyssey universe, it would have already happened.
That's true. Yeah, I would like to see that explored. And I think it might be because we are starting to see those little robot dogs searching for life. So that might be the seed of seeing that develop.
Yeah.
And okay, here we go. We caught up. So Bishop is going to attack North Korea. North Korea being the North Korean section of the Happy Valley base on Mars. Danielle says, "You can't do that. I'm still commander." But he says that his orders are from higher up. The Department of Defense overrides your orders. And Avalov is still interrogating Miles and Gerardo when Ilya and his friends come in to save Miles and Gerardo. And then, that's basically when pandemonium breaks loose. And Miles says, let's go stop them. Let's go stop them from raiding the North Korean section. And Lee also has his the North Koreans block their territory, their section. As a security team tries to blast through they try to blast through the door. Yeah, they do. And then the security team tries to break in, and the North Korean team keeps the door shut. And then the workers show up, which surprises the raiders. And so that's when the huge fight breaks out. And Miles beats Bishop in the head with the pipe, and everybody starts fighting. It's a big crazy battle, a mob.
Yeah, it's going all out now.
Mm-hmm. It's an endless display of violence, and Danielle and Ed both show up and try to stop the violence. And Nate, remember, she has a gun, but the workers notice and they try to wrestle it from him. And in the scuffle, the gun goes off and fires. And Danielle's not even there yet. I'm way ahead the slides. She's just noticing that the fight's breaking out, and she's gonna show up with, and Ed. She and Ed are both working separately, but still there. They do acknowledge each other, but they both want the same thing, which is to stop the violence. It's a really crazy battle. It would be insane for me to describe everybody who's beating everybody else up. But Nate has his gun, which is, of course, the North Korean gun that says "Protect our leader," like Philip said earlier. And ironically, a gun that says that is shot, and Danielle is the recipient of the bullet. She gets shot, and that stops the fighting. Everybody completely stops because
everybody sobers up and immediately
they realize how serious it is what they're doing. The consequences of their actions have been felt, and everybody is watching to see what's going to happen to the leader of the base. And they take her to Dimitri, who does triage, and man, I was beside myself. I'm sure everyone's feeling the responsibility of their actions here. I was afraid Danny was going to die, especially after she had that beautiful speech that she said to her stepson. I was like, oh no. Maybe that was another case of Brazil, where the fantasy is we go to Brazil and help Brazil. And in this case, it would be her fantasy of being a great grandmother and being able to raise her family. But so it looks pretty tired. They carry that feeling straight through to the end of the episode, where you're wondering, you're watching all the other drama taking place, but you're still on kind of the verge of tears, wondering if Danny's okay. Like you just left her in the operating room while we're moving on talking about other stuff. And Greek Letters Larson says, in the future, mankind will colonize Mars, and we will cooperate for a common goal. Meanwhile, a dude cracks open some other guy's head with a lead pipe. Yeah, well, we're seeing the seeds of whatever the Martian community is going to be, and it does involve a lead pipe covered in blood. And oh, I'm confused about this. The FBI takes Margot under custody. Why does Russia give her up? I would think they'd be excited to send her to death or to a gulag, unless Margot gets to have the choice. And of course, if anyone has a choice between Russia and US prison would be better than Russia prison.
Yeah.
And Aleda gives her a final hug. And Margot says everything's going to be okay. And we'll see. I think she'll be okay too. She's an important character. We're going to see her again in season 5.
Mm-hmm.
We get a shot of the Johnson Space Center memorial from when the bombing happened, and Margot's name has been vandalized. It looks like it's been crossed out because obviously she did not die in the bombing. So someone said, "Hey, this name doesn't belong here. Let's cross it out." Mm. And that's Margot's story. Meanwhile, I still didn't know what was going on with Danny, but we see Irina returning to Star City, and she has 3 agents in her office searching through her stuff, so they're not very happy. But we don't know if she's going to be killed or sent to prison or what's going to happen with her. And we get this newspaper article.
Yeah, that newspaper article is definitely something that I think is more leaning toward the abuses that went on in like Abu Ghraib rather than just Guantanamo. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of I mean, it was around the same time because I think the season starts on March 17th, 2003. So that's like the date that we invaded Iraq. So I'm kind of wondering if there's a sort of a commentary there.
It could be that, but I think they use some of their fictional history here. Or is this real? They say similar tactics were used during conflicts in Panama and Uruguay, raising red flags which were ignored at this time. And the unease was not limited to the CIA. Art Keller, a former CIA Middle East case officer, told the Sentinel, "I saw people waterboarded when I was in training, but it wasn't until I resigned and read about the torture at Camp Parkin that I realized how wrong it was." What? In training? Crazy. But you could be right. So then, yeah. So, but that's the biggest story though. For some reason, Margot's not on the front page, or nor is Danny, who was shot on Mars. But okay, it's fine. So there's a large container arriving at Happy Valley. It's huge. So Lee is waiting in the cargo bay, and they manage to smuggle Lee's wife. And so they have a sweet and lovely scene reuniting after all these years, but how do you do that? How do you smuggle people without anyone noticing? That was always the question. They don't really answer it. They just have her and lots of other people. Lots of other people come out of the container, and the Happy Valley crew members arrive back in the United States. Danielle is with them in a arm sling. which she's done
Mhm.
before. This is the second time she's returned to Earth with her arm in a sling.
Oh yeah.
She's
But
paying
unlike the
for.
first time,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Unlike the first time, she's not coming back necessarily as like a disgraced astronaut.
That's true. Although she failed her mission, but that wasn't really her fault. But we'll see
Mhm.
any consequences of that she has to end up answering for.
Yeah.
But at the moment she gets up, she's able to walk. So first of all, we get to see she can walk. And she sees her granddaughter for the first time. And everyone's very happy when we get a cute baby.
Yeah.
And several weeks old. I'm relieved that she survived and made it to be home with her family. While it's great to see her, with her new life on Earth, I'm minded and disappointed that Kelly still hasn't found life on Mars, which is something we talked about earlier with Lance. That's still
Yeah.
a tease.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a threat. Like they put a pin in it this season, and I'm imagining they're going to pick it up next season, and
So,
we'll have to see
yeah.
what that manifests.
Right. I just hope they don't just stuff it into a montage during season 5 and first episode. I hope it becomes a plot point or something that on Mars,
I mean,
Martians colonize you.
I think if they mention it in the montage, it won't be like a throwaway thing. It'll probably end up being like a thread through the entire season. So now, if they put it in the
I hope
montage and
so.
then don't mention it the rest of the season, then that's a problem.
Yes, it is. I agree completely. So that's the only thing that'll make me happy. Greek Letters Larson says, do they have a gulag in Mars? I don't know. I mean, you would think they have a prison with such a big colony. We just haven't really seen it. And he also says, in the future, mankind will colonize Mars and will cooperate for a common goal. Meanwhile, oh yeah. Meanwhile, we got lead pipes. Yes, I read that one already. He also says she hasn't found life on Mars yet because she hasn't checked the Sidonia Plains. That's where the action is. Oh man, you gotta contact her. Send Kelly a D-mail because they don't use email in this universe. They use D-mail.
Yeah, very true.
But okay, so my question here also is there's another question I had. Who's getting sent back to Earth to face the music for the conspiracy? Because we have all these people who conspired to besides Margot, but who from Mars
Mhm.
is getting sent back to answer for what they
Well,
did?
my assumption
The
is
sedition.
that nobody does, and then like that's how they get out of it.
They just don't go.
And
Nobody goes home.
yeah, everybody's like, well, we have to stay on Mars in order to avoid trial. I think that's
Mhm.
funny. But yeah, now
I guess
Dev,
so.
I think, is over at that I forget what crater, Korolev crater,
Mhm.
and he's overlooking like his new empire. And then we flash forward to 2012.
We do, and Goldilocks is still orbiting Mars,
But it's
but
not
now we
Goldilocks
see.
anymore.
Oh, right. Well, the asteroid itself was named Goldilocks, but they changed. They have what do they call it exactly? They call it Kuznetsov Station,
Hmm.
and they have mining facilities all over it. And of course, Kuznetsov was the first human on the moon, and also the first human to walk on an asteroid. So it really makes sense.
And
We
first,
lost him. We lost him this season.
yeah, one of the first humans on Mars and the first human to touch a asteroid.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. He was also one of the first humans on Mars. Lee took that from him, and And from Danielle. Yes.
And also, there's a thing in this photo, this screenshot, that is kind of hard to see, but on Reddit they pointed out that there's a sign somewhere, I think the lower right-hand corner, that says "Free Mars" on it. So there we go.
Free Mars? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
So that might be a little bit of an idea of what to expect next season when we move into the 2010s. But we can also discuss the speculative nature of next season, obviously next week. But that's just leaving a thread open for next time.
Oh, he wasn't the first person on the moon. That was Alexei Leonov. Okay,
Yeah, this timeline it's Alexei Leonov.
I got mixed. I got that a bit mixed up. But we have
mixed up your Russians.
I did. Well, I do that all the time. Anyway, we got a closing monologue from Margot that covers up, that overlays the end of this series. She says, "I've always been captivated with the idea of justice. It's what attracted me to engineering in the first place. A sense of right and wrong, that I was in control. But the truth is, the world is not as simple as we want it to be. It can't just be boiled down into an equation, especially when it comes to human beings. We are flawed, unpredictable, and full of contradictions. It's taken me most of my life to realize it's exactly these traits that make us so resilient. They give credence to the improbable idea that anything is possible, even in the darkest of times. Your Honor, I was always told that we shouldn't let personal feelings cloud our search for truth. But looking back now, I don't think that's right. Feelings may not be convenient. They may slow our progress. But they're also the only way to truly begin to understand the world around us and the new worlds that await us." And of course, that reminds me of this.
Simple feeling.
So, some of the trivia on the wiki say this is the first season finale not to start with beeping sounds or an emergency, which I would not have thought of.
Interesting.
And also the first season finale where nobody dies except for that panel. Although it's not a character. But man, it was scary.
Instead, they decided to kill Sergei in the episode before.
Yes. But you felt like people were going to die.
I mean, there was a moment where I thought Danielle was going to bite it.
I did too. I thought it was over. Like, that much blood. There was too much blood pouring out. It was not good.
That would have been something if that happened. But I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah. And me too. I'm glad it didn't too. And that's it. That's a fairly good ending. And like Lance said, this was an ending just in case the series got canceled. But fortunately, it didn't. And so we will have a season 5. And even though it was set up that way where this could be, and I'm glad it's not, it's still set up so that more stories can be mined from it.
Mined?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that was intentional.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I want 7 seasons for this series. And I think that would be a great way to wrap it up.
Yeah. So I think my biggest question was, where do you rank season 4 against the rest of the show?
That's pretty tough. Let's see. I don't know. And season 1's probably still going to be my favorite.
Mhm.
And then maybe season 3, season 4, and then season 2.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think this was good. This is pretty good. But now, I don't know. I might change that tomorrow. But that's all I'll say today.
Okay.
Just to
I
give
mean,
you an
your
answer.
first reaction, is good enough.
Well, what I'm most excited about is now I get to look at all the production notes and the interviews and things now that I'm no longer in danger of being spoiled. So even just preparing for this episode, it accidentally spoiled Sergei's death for me. So it's been really rough
No.
to conceal things from myself. But now I don't have to worry about that ever again because I'm all caught up.
Yeah, very true. And I'm glad you're caught up, and I'm glad that now that you made it 4 seasons through, that you're wanting to hopefully get through the next 3, and we get all 3, and then we get an entire 7 seasons of For All Mankind that tell a story of an alternate timeline where the Russians beat us to the moon, and we both competed to basically settle the entire solar system. And there was no show before that ever did this, and we get to see it happen. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a good inspiration too to say that there is value in the space agencies. There's value in searching beyond Earth,
Hmm.
and to ignore that potential is to stifle humanity. Really, we're creatures who like to explore, and we don't just like it. We need it in order to grow.
Yeah, and I think that's what that's one of the reasons why I would never turn against space exploration or space travel. I think it's just too innate within the human psyche. I mean, it literally is called the final frontier for a reason. It's the ultimate ending to everything we could possibly know. So
Exactly.
I'm hoping that we don't turn our backs on it. There's a lot of people afraid right now about what the state of NASA is going to be, but I don't really think that's well placed. I think NASA will be fine. But now I think we're going to be in a better spot in terms of getting to all these places we've been promised to get to for the last decade or two.
I think so
I-
too. I think if anything, the competition is going to build up again, not just
Mhm,
here in America with NASA and SpaceX and everybody,
mhm.
but also the rest of the world is also getting into space exploration. So we've got to keep up also. And
Yep.
that's what's gonna keep it going.
Mhm.
The competition, you need that competition. Gavin Blackburn says if the asteroid has oil, it's war. But oil, no. In the For All Mankind universe, we've moved on beyond fossil fuels because they figured out fusion. So if it has
Mhm.
helium-3, or I guess the moon has that anyway, but something like that.
Well, the more helium-3 you have, the better, even if there's
Right.
already an infinite supply.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather mine helium-3 from an asteroid that we can than the moon because the moon is a valuable celestial object that we need for Earth to survive. But I wouldn't want to endanger the moon and beat it up and potentially, mess up its orbit or something by
Yeah,
blowing it up too much.
generally speaking, I've never really been that big of a fan of, kind of putting all our eggs in the Mars basket. I feel like we need to kind of like branch out. But, I've
Yeah.
always been a fan of the Gerard K. O'Neill style of kind of doing space where, you know, if we're going to dedicate ourselves to exploration and doing all this, space travel stuff, that I kind of feel like we need to move beyond like our predisposition for, oh, let's go to the moon or Mars, and kind of just that's treating that like it's an endpoint, like we need to colonize these things. And I'm kind of at the point where I think, like O'Neill, we need to just be building space stations that we can move to or move heavy industry to instead. because I think Jeff Bezos and his Blue Origin kind of have this idea where if we move all heavy industry off of the Earth and kind of put that on the moon or Mars or whatever, or even in space, you can kind of let Earth heal and kind of, restore itself, and we can get away from all the toxic stuff that we've been putting into the environment over the years. And I think that's that should be like a co-requisite for moving out into space, that we handle stuff on Earth and we explore the different places that are available to us, as well as settled
It's an
space
interesting
itself.
start. It's a great idea, of course, but is it financially feasible? Is what you're mining somewhere else going to be as valuable with the expense of having to transport it back to Earth?
Yeah, I mean that's probably some of the reason why there's kind of an emphasis right now. Like instead of asteroid mining in the asteroid belt, we just find near Earth asteroids and then mine them close by. That way, it's not that difficult to get to them. And there's tons of them floating around right now. So
Yeah, well, okay. Can we strap some rockets to them and practice that? I know we
I mean,
slammed some rockets into an asteroid, but that's not exactly the proof of concept that we need to show
well, I
that we
mean,
can actually control the orbit of an asteroid without disaster.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different theories, but I mean, I think some of the stupider ideas are like if we have to handle an asteroid that's going to impact the Earth, it's like, oh, blow it up, like in some kind of like movie. And it's like if we were going to do Armageddon or Deep Impact in real life, it would be a lot more, dare I say, boring, because all we would do is either do a gravity tractor, or we just kind of like try to pull it out of orbit through just like gravity assisting, or we would strap thrusters to it and then just move it out of orbit, and we would treat it like a spaceship. So,
So we won't be
but
sending a nuke to the middle of the asteroid to blow it up.
no,
Because that just makes lots of tiny asteroids. Now we
I
got
mean,
more asteroids coming to Earth.
if it's small enough to where you can nuke it and then like vaporize all the other ones, then maybe. But then again, if it's that small, you probably don't need to nuke it to begin with.
How many times do you need to blow up an asteroid to vaporize it? Because we don't exactly have phasers yet.
No, but I mean, even a small yield nuclear device can do a pretty good number. But if it's too big, I mean, that would not make any sense to blow it up anyway, because we'd end up with that same issue. But you're doing the Thundercats?
Yeah, exactly. He says, show's over. No other seasons to discuss. Next week we'll be doing Thundercats. No, actually, that's not true. But that's funny. So, what happens next week is that we still are going to be talking about For All Mankind, but we're going to talk about our predictions, more predictions. We got some previews for that already today, but we're going to go into depth on our predictions for season 5. And I'm going to go crazy looking at production notes and interviews and stuff and taking notes on all that. Those what I find most interesting in all of everything that's been shared so far from each season. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff too, on how the show is made, everything that I was too afraid to look up before because I was afraid of spoilers. In space, no one can hear you fart. Those Greek letters, Sarson.
Well,
Because
maybe,
sound doesn't travel in space. I guess unless you got radio comms.
possibly.
Yeah. And also says, don't worry, folks, aggression will continue in space. Yeah, true enough. The potential resources will justify it. We are an aggressive species that follows the path to self-destruction. It's a miracle that we don't. And we'll see. Well, but I do like that For All Mankind injects a bit of hope into that while not ignoring the inevitability of that aggression you're talking about. It still happens, but we're still left in a place where we believe there's a way to go forward, and space exploration will continue. And we'll have a final show about that next week. And it's just a fun, like, it's almost kind of a fun party. Just whatever fun thing I can fun things I can find to talk about, and any predictions you've got. Bring all your favorite theories. Like, if you got any more crazy theories, like the entire Martian crew eating Danny to stay alive. I don't know. If you if you got anything more like that, bring them next week.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard that was a legitimate theory, I was like, you know what? This is awful, but you know, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I was denying it at first, but that could be a thing. Given how horrified they were, yeah, I guess it kind of makes some sense. But I don't know.
Mm.
Anyway, that's all we got for today. We'll save all the rest of it for next time. And also to save
That's
my
all, folks.
voice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you
I wanted
managed to
to
go almost
finish.
3 hours. I'm pretty pretty
Yeah,
glad that you were able to make it this far. So
me too. I was afraid like 20 minutes into it, my voice was gonna disappear, and I was like, no, you started streaming too soon because someone warned me. You gotta rest your voice. If you come back too soon, you could lose it again. And they're right. They were right. I was like, you know what? They're right. But I couldn't I couldn't wait to see you guys again. I wanted to be with my internet friends, and I'm glad I made it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, with Scotty R37, we're going to be talking about Shin Ultraman 2022. We were supposed to talk about it on Friday, but my voice was gone. I just sounded like a squeaky tire. Actually, my son said when you tried to talk, you just sounded like the air conditioning. So apparently
mm,
I was just making noises. I could not actually speak. So this is a huge improvement, and it's good enough for tomorrow too. So before I go, I'm gonna let Philip tell us about anything that he wants to share that he's doing on the internet.
well, we'll be completing our fantasy month tomorrow. I'm gonna be doing a review video of Avatar: Last Airbender. We couldn't get to it on Friday because there was a scheduling conflict with the one guest I wanted to bring on, but they're still dealing with something, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it tomorrow. With that, we're going to be transitioning from that to kind of closing out the year with a few videos, you know, kind of going over my time in the Master of Fine Arts program here at San Diego State University, and then kind of going over sort of the state of my channel and where we're going to go from here. And I think it's pretty likely that January we're going to be transitioning from Fleet Admiral Levi possibly to a different type of channel, which I think temporarily I'm thinking about calling it Levi's Lore, where we talk about world building and writing, and you know, periodically bringing up my own writing and displaying that for everybody. So that's kind of where things are at the moment.
Well, it's a good idea to integrate your creativity with that of others. That's a good idea. Good, get going, and
Yeah,
especially if you got stuff to share, that's a good way to do it. I like it.
yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, adios, muchachos.
Yep, that's all,
Indeed.
folks.
Oh, he also says, just let Scotty go rampant tomorrow. If you feel tired, it's going to be okay. When you say rampant, it's like you're trying to say, Scotty, is Scotty a kaiju? Well, we'll find out tomorrow.
I thought you meant rampancy, like because in Halo, the video games, their little AI software, like if they are a certain age or they've reached a certain point in their lifespan, they become rampant and they go through a state of rampancy, so they get kind of crazy. And so,
Oh,
um,
that too. Yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense also.
yeah,
Oh, no, it'll be a fun stream. And I'm encouraged. I'm glad I did this stream to as a proof of concept that yes, I can speak for several hours at a time. Everything's okay. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday for our final For All Mankind series where we will discuss possibilities for season 5 and production information for all the seasons. I will talk to you next time. Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Learn all that is learnable.
And the ways our differences combine to create meaning and beauty.
It has always been easier to destroy than to create.
May we together become greater than the sum of both of us.
Well, now you have something new to think about. Carry on.
As Bertrand Russell once said, the only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation.
Emma.